Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. It's Colleen Suchecki here from BelieveGrowShine.com, and I am a speaker and a healer, and I help people to heal from past experiences so that they can show up as their true selves, share their gifts with the world, and live their purpose. And I'm really excited to be sharing with you today a topic that is really, I think, very, very powerful. And it's all about vulnerability and the role that vulnerability plays in your healing, the role that vulnerability plays in awakening to your authentic self. And I also want to say, if you're popping on here or watching the replay, please say hello so I can say hello to you. And if you feel inspired to share this, then I really appreciate, I always appreciate that. So what really inspired me to share this is, of course, my own experience with vulnerability. So I want to talk a little bit about what does vulnerability mean to you and what comes up for you. Hi, Ashley. What comes up for you when you think of vulnerability? So I want to quote Brene Brown because I believe Brene Brown has made a massive impact on my life in the role, in the topic of vulnerability and fear and shame. Hi, Christina. So, hi, Michelle. All right. So Brene Brown, this is a Brene Brown quote, and it says, vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. It is a willingness to show up and be seen. And I would love to hear from you. What comes up for you when you think of vulnerability? Do you feel like, does vulnerability to you feel like you're exposed, you're unprotected, you're naked, so to speak? What does vulnerability feel like to you? Because I think the key to healing from past experiences and the key to creating everything you want in your life involves vulnerability, because it is very vulnerable to speak your truth. It can be very vulnerable to commit to your dreams and your goals. It can be very vulnerable to walk away from relationships that really aren't serving you. And it can be very vulnerable to say to the people that you love them, because what if they don't love you in return? So I would love to hear from you, and I'm just going to share this really quick. I would love to hear from anyone that feels brave enough to share what comes up for you with vulnerability. And I mean, I know for me, vulnerability has had a huge impact on my friendships, on my relationships. It's had a huge impact on my business. It's had a huge impact on my health. So what I want to do, hey, Marlene. All right, so for anyone who's coming on now, I'd love to hear, what is your association with vulnerability? When I say vulnerability, what comes up in your body? Are there fears that come up, or does it feel exciting and expansive? Does it feel like you want to contract and hide? I'd love to hear from you. What does it feel like in your body to be vulnerable? Hi. How does that show up? What does it feel like in your body? I know for me, so I'm going to just, as I'm waiting for people to kind of share their own personal experiences about what vulnerability means to them and how it feels, I want to share a story with you, a story that actually just happened this past weekend that was a very, very powerful opportunity for healing for me. And for me, it has always been very vulnerable to be in a group of women. So I am in a business mastermind, and we were invited on a retreat this past weekend with other women who had gone through the mastermind before us. And I had a sense, because I know, hi Wanda, I know for me that there is this vulnerability in me being with a group of women because of past experiences that I've had in my life. Feelings like I've been rejected, I haven't fit in, I haven't belonged, I'm not good enough, all these things that still were living in my body. So going to this weekend, I felt a part of me that really was not excited about it. And I know that part of me, it was coming from the part of me that was really nervous and was scared and was like, okay, I've always struggled with, okay, where's in like a group of people, a group of women specifically, where is my place? If I show up and if I'm the one who's always talking, then I look like that I'm the one who's trying to dominate the conversation. And if any women are now watching, if you've ever struggled with this, with being in groups of women, put a 1 in the comments. So I can't imagine I'm the only one who's ever had this trigger within them. It's also been, I've showed up in a way of people pleasing, of just, like wanting to agree with other people or wanting to share something where I look really smart or important, or I really want to prove that I'm good at, yeah, Marlene. Okay. So if you're just joining now and you feel like being in a group of women has ever been triggering for you, triggered stuff from the past, you can put a 1. So this is what my experience was. So I'm heading up there this weekend in this beautiful place, and I'm feeling all of these things start to come up, and I'm like, oh God. And as I'm like walking and there's this group of women that are already there, and they all seem like they all know each other. And I just feel myself wanting to shrink inside. I just could feel myself, hi Sabrina, wanting to retreat backwards. Like, I actually want to get back in my car and go somewhere else, because this is really, it felt really uncomfortable. And it was nothing that anyone was doing there. This was all things that were coming up within me. So I started just noticing it. And then as time went on, as I could feel myself going into people pleasing, I could feel myself going into withdrawal and retreat of just wanting to, like, no, I just want to be by myself. I'm just going to observe and not say anything. And it was really, really powerful. So on Saturday, it got to the point where I started to develop significant migraine symptoms. Now, it is rare for me to get a migraine. I'm not talking about like a headache. I'm talking about like migraine where there is like a symphony bound, like not even a symphony, because actually I think that sounds good. Like heavy metal rock music, which I really is not my cup of tea, is like banging in my mind, and I'm nauseous, and I'm eating dinner, and I'm sitting there thinking, how in the heck am I going to continue to eat, because I feel like I just want to vomit and my head is throbbing so hard. I don't know what to do. So I actually left the table. I excused myself from the table, and I went upstairs to my room, and I'm laying on the bed. Hi, Christina. I'm laying on the bed, and I just start crying. And I'm like, okay, God, help me here. And interestingly enough, of course, not coincidentally, I had pulled there was a woman there who had pulled, angel cards for me. And one of the cards was vulnerability. And this had happened a few hours earlier. So I have this washing around in my brain in this Brene Brown quote of vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. It is the willingness to show up and be seen. So I have this going around in my mind, and I'm thinking like, well, how the hell am I going to show up and be seen? Because I feel like I don't matter. I feel like, I'm invisible, and all these things from my childhood coming up. And I just asked God, and I was like, I know I don't want to stay here in my room. I know I don't want to hide and retreat. I know that I want to show up as myself. I don't want to people please. I don't want to try to prove myself. I just want to show up as my fucking self and know that that's enough. So I was like, okay, God, give me the courage. So I gathered all the courage I could find, and not knowing, because I was like, well, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to go down there? What am I going to go and like stand in front of everyone and say, hey, everyone, I'm super triggered right now because I feel like I don't matter and I don't fit in and I don't belong. And I was like, that sounds like crazy. So I go back down to the table, not having a clue of how it was going to look, but I just was willing to show up. I was willing, knowing, and I just really just surrendered to God. And I sat down, and I just have chills. Like, as soon as I sat down, a woman next to me, who I barely even know at all, had barely even had an in-depth conversation with, turned over to me, grabbed my arm, and she said, "Are you okay?" And this is like a huge table full of women, and this woman just reached out to me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I just started crying, and I was like, "No." Like, no. And she's like, okay, well, fortunately enough, this woman, this angel, this woman that God was working through, was a healer, of course, did Reiki. And she's like, I can do some Reiki on you. I can help you if you want me to. And I was like, okay. And I just started, tears were just flowing down my face. And I looked back over her and I said, can you help me? Which was very, very vulnerable. And she said, yes. And so we actually said, like, let's go outside. So we go and we find this spot, and we're in a location where there's these beautiful like mountains, green. We're like in the middle of nowhere. And we sit on this bench and tears are just flowing down my face. And I'm going back to my 11-year-old self, where I felt like I was in a group of girls back then, and I felt like no one paid attention to me. Everyone ignored me. I wasn't good enough. I didn't matter. And I honestly questioned, like the pain that I'm in, do I still want to be here? Do I still want to live? And so all of that is just flowing through me as she's doing energy work, as she's doing Reiki. And as soon as she started, all of my headache symptoms, all the migraine symptoms started to go away. And by the time we were done and I was sharing with her what was coming up for me, it was gone. The migraine was completely gone. I had like no trace of it. It was like a miracle. And I just hugged her so tightly. And I just sat there in such tremendous gratitude, because I had no idea what was going to happen. I just knew that I had to be willing to be vulnerable and be willing to ask for help and be willing to show up, even though I didn't know what that looked like. And later that night, we did an exercise about what we want to release and who we're becoming. And one of my I am statements is, I am willing to show up and be seen. And then I shared with the whole group, because no one else besides her and I knew what had just taken place. And I shared with the whole group about how I was triggered and all the healing that happened. I shared the whole story with the group, and it was just it was beautiful, because I wasn't sharing from a place of like, I need to get attention. I was sharing from a place of, this is authentic to me. And I don't need anyone to tell me, I don't need anyone to say anything to me. I need to share this, because this is what feels I need to do for my soul. And the healing and the power that I felt in that just was something that was hugely transformative. And I've had women private message me, speak to me personally, that said just how inspiring that was for them, and how I really showed up as myself, and what an inspiration was. And I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it honestly for myself and my own healing. So it was so healing to be able to just say, okay, I'm like a fucking mess right now. Like I feel awful inside. I don't know what to do, but I showed up. And I want you to think about something that's going on in your life right now. And I want you to think about, if you could see vulnerability as a strength, almost as a superpower, and if you could be willing to just show up and be seen, what would be possible in your life? What would shift? What could change if you could just let that story go and let that healing in? So I'm going to go back. I see that there were some comments here. All right, let's see here. Christina Ryland said, I feel very vulnerable when I can't walk and I'm in my wheelchair, because there is a function that I had already said I would attend, but never have been seen outside home. So I decided to stay home because it becomes overwhelming and afraid of looks, people asking questions. I can't, it's just too much to handle. So that is really powerful, Christina. So my invitation to you, Christina, is when we are hiding, whatever the situation is, it doesn't matter if it's you in a wheelchair or me in a group of women, or whatever the situation is, it feels like it can feel so overwhelming. But if you're just willing, the thing is that you don't know what is possible. Your mind may be going through all the worst case scenarios, but you don't actually know the healing that is possible when you take yourself out of the game. And I'm not saying that to shame you or criticize you in any way. I'm saying that from my heart. I'm saying that because I know that healing can only happen when we're willing to be vulnerable. Even though you might not know, and that's not saying that there won't ever be a look that it like doesn't feel good, or people won't say something, but you also don't know what the other amazing possibilities are, because you're taking yourself out of the game. You don't know what kind of love and support and nurturing that you will receive if your mind is only going into the worst case scenarios. And that will hold you back, right? Like, because that's what I thought about. I thought about the worst case scenarios of if I go downstairs and if I say like, I am super triggered right now and I'm feeling vulnerable, I mean, worst case scenarios in my mind, people start laughing at me and are like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like you're, you know, like, get over yourself, you know, give me a break. Like, I don't care about you. You don't matter. Those were worst case scenarios going through my mind. But if you can go to a place of trust and just being willing to show up and willing and open to the possibility, I had no idea what was going to happen, but what happened was nothing I could have ever predicted. I could have never in my mind imagined that me sitting down and there was going to be an earth angel next to me that would reach out and ask for if I needed help. I could have never predicted that. And that's what I'm saying to Christina here and all of you that are on here right now that are taking yourself out of the game, that are removing yourself, dismissing yourself, that are hiding. You have no idea the possibilities that are created when you just show up and are willing to be vulnerable. So, if anyone else, let me just scroll through and see if there's anyone else. Amen. Show up as yes. Oh, thanks, Christina. Thank you. The only thing to fear is fear itself. Right, Georgiana. And it's like, we already know, like we can sit here and stay in the worst case scenarios and let full rule our life. And then we will miss out on so many things that we could have never predicted. Christina Taylor said, vulnerability, taking your guard down and being willing, being open to new opportunities and experiences and receptiveness. Exactly. Right. What is one thing you can do today that is one step on you opening up to being vulnerability? That wasn't good grammar. But what is one step, one action step that you can take today that is you taking the step forward and you being willing to show up? Yes, I need to trust and show up. No more hiding. Exactly, Christina Ryland. Yes, no more hiding, because hiding is really, that is where like nothing will ever heal. Nothing will ever change. You will never get to experience who you really are or share your gifts with the world when you're hiding. So if there's anyone here that is feeling triggered and you are feeling like you're stuck and you're in the same patterns over and over again and you just feel like it feels almost impossible for you to move forward, I am going to type in, I'm going to offer a link if you would like to have a private conversation with me to see if we are a good fit to work together, for a good fit to do some deep healing so that you can let go of what is holding you back, let go of what makes you want to hide, what makes you want to play small, what makes you want to dim your light. Because I'm saying to you that not only are you missing out on getting to experience who you really are, but many other people are too. So I'll put that link in the comments after I get off. And if you would like to reach out and have a one-on-one conversation to see if the healing work, to see if the work that I do is a good fit for both of us, then I would love to have that conversation with you, because I truly feel that the world is in dire need of more people to be willing to show up and be themselves. I feel like that is the only way we'll be able to move forward. The healing that needs to take place on this planet in so many realms comes from people that have been hiding, that are now willing to show up and be themselves. They're now willing to show up and put themselves on the line. And I think that the world is missing out when you're letting fear hold you back from doing that. So that is all that I have to share for today. And I am so grateful for all of you who are watching right now, who have taken the time out of your day. And for those of you who are watching the replay, I am sending you all love. And if you would like to have a conversation, I would be honored. Have a great rest of your day.